Okay, let's dive into this. If you've spent, any time at all in a modern office or maybe navigated a hybrid team or even just listened to those endless career debates online, then you know a massive shift is happening right beneath our feet. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating explainer, Gen Z versus millennials, and the workplace truth nobody wants to admit. We're going to break down the rapidly shifting dynamics of the modern workforce, looking closely at the data to understand exactly what is changing out there. For decades, people all across the globe pretty much believed in one very simple rule: work hard, stay loyal, and success will inevitably follow. But what actually happens when that promise of hard work just doesn't feel guaranteed anymore? You see, today's workforce is deeply divided. And it's not divided by age alone, but by a completely different fundamental experience of the economy itself. Understanding this divide, it kind of changes how we think about work forever. So here's how we're going to break down this paradigm shift today. First, we'll look at the new rules of work. Then, the hard work dilemma. Third is AI and the career ladder, followed by loyalty and work-life balance. And finally, we'll wrap up with the uncertain retirement question. We're going to impartially examine the catalysts behind all these big workplace changes. So let's get right into it. Starting with Section 1, the new rules of work. Because every single generation enters the workforce under completely different circumstances. It is so vital to remember that nobody starts at the exact same starting line. Think about it. Millennials stepped into their careers during a time of rapid technological growth. They were learning to navigate a world that was literally transitioning from fax machines to smartphones. But they were also slammed by historic economic recessions and had to hustle through a deeply bruised job market. Now, contrast that with Gen Z. They're stepping into a world that's already completely saturated with AI like ChatGPT, widespread automation, and soaring living costs. The economic and technological baselines for these two cohorts couldn't be more different at the start of their careers. Sure, the physical office, the desks, the meeting rooms, those endless reply-all email chains, they might look exactly the same as they did 20 years ago, but the challenges absolutely do not. The underlying economic and social pressures that younger generations are carrying into the office today are structurally, fundamentally different. Which brings us to Section 2, the hard work dilemma. Let me ask you this. Do you still believe the old rule that sheer effort automatically guarantees success? Today, young professionals are facing some harsh modern realities. We're talking slower promotions, wildly less predictable career paths, and significantly more expensive housing. And no, it is not just about skipping the avocado toast. To put things into perspective, when a starter home requires a drastically higher percentage of an entry-level wage today than it did back in 1990, the old math of just work harder really starts to break down. Working longer hours just doesn't automatically translate into financial stability the way it used to. So this begs the ultimate question, doesn't it? Can hard work alone still deliver the life previous generations expected? The public debate out there often mischaracterizes young people as simply not wanting to work, but honestly, that completely misses the point. The real conversation we need to be having is about whether the traditional middle-class blueprint even functions in today's economy. That leads perfectly into Section 3, AI and the career ladder. Because we have to talk about the massive disruptor that is artificial intelligence.
For previous generations, career progression was this very predictable linear staircase. You know how it goes. Step 1, you graduate. Step 2, you secure an entry-level role to get some experience and learn the ropes. And Step 3, you steadily climb the ranks. It was a neat, orderly path that was actively supported by organizations.
But artificial intelligence is throwing a massive wrench into that system. It's actually transforming, or in some cases, entirely erasing that crucial entry-level step. The very jobs that used to exist purely to help recent graduates build a foundation are increasingly being automated. And think about it. If the bottom rung of the ladder is literally missing, how exactly are you supposed to start the climb? Now, here is the absolute key takeaway for anyone trying to navigate this AI-driven market. Future workers must develop skills that technology complements rather than replaces. You've got to figure out exactly where human nuance, complex strategy, and empathy fit into a workflow that is being heavily automated. Because for sure, that is where your true value lies moving forward. Moving into Section 4, loyalty and work-life balance. As that traditional career ladder disappears, personal priorities are shifting in a big way. Younger professionals are now prioritizing mental health, flexibility, and personal fulfillment above a lot of other things. And, neutrally speaking, this isn't about a lack of ambition, right? It's a highly logical reaction to changing social and economic realities.
When the guarantee of lifelong financial stability kind of vanishes, success naturally has to be measured by more than just a paycheck. Because of this, the modern corporate dynamic has completely inverted. The past expectation was pretty straightforward. You spend decades with a single employer. But the modern reality? It's constant layoffs, restructuring, and rapid change. The concept of unquestioning corporate loyalty has severely eroded, simply because the workforce has watched companies treat employees as expendable assets during turbulent times. As a result, the whole idea of loyalty has been completely redefined. It's now something earned through respect, communication, and opportunity, not simply expected by default. Trust in the modern workplace has evolved into a mutual two-way street. An organization has to actually prove it's worthy of a young worker's ongoing time and talent.
And that brings us to our final section, the uncertain retirement question. Let's look at the ultimate finish line of a career. Why does that finish line seem to keep moving further away? Well, modern workers are facing very real retirement hurdles, rising living costs, radically changing pension systems, and a much longer life expectancy. To put that into perspective, these specific pressures make the old math, a guaranteed pension paying for a comfortable 30-year retirement, practically unattainable for the vast majority of today's workforce. Because of this uncertainty, the entire paradigm is shifting. The focus has moved toward building meaningful, adaptable careers over time. Instead of desperately chasing an early retirement that might actually be financially impossible, the new goal is creating a sustainable work life. It's about protecting against burnout right now, rather than just suffering through the daily grind until you hit age 65. Look, every generation believes the next works differently, and every generation faces its own unimaginable challenges. But ultimately, the future of work belongs to those who adapt and keep learning. The new workplace isn't going to be built by stubbornly choosing between old ideas and new ones. It's going to be built by adapting to the reality right in front of us. Which leaves us with one final, absolutely crucial question. How do you define success today? As the rules of work completely transform, your answer to that might just be the most important career decision you ever make. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this structured look at the data provided some clarity, and I highly encourage you to reflect on your own shifting expectations in this completely new era of work.